I get asked a lot the difference about prevalence and incidence rates because every couple of years the government releases a report and we get fed information that the incident rate has increased and the overall prevalence has increased, and then people start going, oh, well, our programs are not working, etc., etc. Let's discuss this so that you have a bit of clarity. This is maybe not something you need to discuss with your clients, but it's certainly something that's a useful bit of information for you to know. When we look at incidence, we measure from, say, January the 1st, 2014 to January 1st, 2015. During that time frame, how many new infections or how many people were diagnosed HIV positive within those 365 days? That's going to give us our incident rate. In other words, the number of new infections over a certain time frame. Then you've got the population that is already living with HIV, and you add the new incidents to that population. Now think of it as a swimming pool. You've got your shallow end, you've got the middle of your pool, you've got your deep end, and then you've got your fall off outside the swimming pool at the deep end. So people enter in HIV positive into the swimming pool. The swimming pool is the total population of people alive with HIV, and at the end of the deep end, you subtract the number of people who have died. So your prevalence rate is going to be your new infections, the existing population that are already HIV positive, regardless as to how long they've lived with HIV, minus the amount of people who have died. Now, 10 years ago, we were losing a lot of people. We were losing 1,1600 people a day to HIV. But with the introduction of antiretroviral therapy and management of HIV in our public systems, we have now been able to decrease the amount of deaths, which is a good thing. However, the incident rate, the new infection rate, is not coming down overall. There are certain areas and certain populations where it is, but on the whole, our incidence rate is either stabilized or is increasing. So we've got a certain number of people feeding into the swimming pool from the shallow end, which means the prevalence rate is going to grow. The fewer people who die also is going to increase our prevalence rate. So remember, the prevalence is all about the existing population living with HIV, including the new incidence of people who are newly diagnosed or newly infected and have been for tests, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't know, minus the people who have died because they have not been compliant, they've waited too long to come forward for treatment, whatever the reason is, those people have died. Now those numbers have halved. So what's going to happen is the population, because the management program using antiretrovirals is so effective, the prevalence rate, in other words, the population living with HIV, is going to increase and increase and increase. This is not a bad thing in terms of are our programs working, etc., etc. What it's saying is that HIV is now a chronic manageable disease. Therefore, with people not dying, we are able to increase the population of of people living with HIV, the positive population, and that is going to get bigger and bigger. The larger our prevalence rate is, the more successful we can look at our programs and go, things are actually working. Now, new infections, clearly those people were not paying attention, they took risks, they're not listening, whatever the reasons were for them becoming infected. This is not about judging people, this is about simply dealing with reality. We need to focus more on the prevention side and the management side of HIV, which is where you guys come in because you manage HIV and do so very, very effectively. You're constantly monitoring us, you're constantly asking us for our blood results and making sure we're compliant with our medications. All of those things are going to contribute to the overall prevalence, the population living with HIV at any specific given point in time. I hope that explains things a little easier for you.